The rain had stopped just before noon, leaving the air thick with the smell of wet pine and the faint metallic tang of the lake. At the edge of the clearing, laughter drifted from a white canvas tent strung with fairy lights, the hum of celebration muffled by the woods. Evelyn Marsh, lace gown hemmed dark with damp soil, stood near the treeline, stroking the coarse fur along the K9's neck. The dog's amber eyes never blinked, fixed on something unseen beyond the shore. When he lunged, the satin train ripped in her grasp, and Evelyn was dragged toward the water. The day had begun almost perfectly. Almost. Evelyn's mother fussed with the veil, while muttering about the bad omen of rain on a wedding day. Evelyn had smiled it off, the way she always did with her mother's superstitions. But a small part of her had clung to the unease. She'd grown up here, in the small lakeside town of Branford Hollow, where secrets didn't stay buried long, unless the lake took them. The ceremony itself was short, with the officiant's voice nearly swallowed by the wind rolling off the water. Guests were still settling under the reception tent when Evelyn slipped away for air. She wasn't one for crowds, and besides, she'd seen the Branford Sheriff's K9 earlier, large, brindled, with a scar across his muzzle, and something about him drew her in. Sheriff Cole Landry, standing near the buffet table, had been watching her approach the animal with an expression that wasn't quite approval. "He's working," he said when she crouched to greet the dog. "I'm not bothering him," she murmured, fingers brushing the wiry fur. The K9, named Hunter, didn't flinch, didn't wag, just stared past her shoulder at the treeline. Cole's jaw tightened. Sometimes he sees things before we do. Evelyn almost laughed, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It was the kind of look that said he wasn't joking. Hunter's body went rigid, and before Evelyn could react, he shot forward, the leash tearing from Cole's hand. The pull was so sudden that Evelyn stumbled, the mud sucking at her shoes as she was dragged toward the lake's edge. "Hunter, heel!" Cole's shout was sharp, but the dog didn't slow. Her train snagged on a root, wrenching her backward just long enough to free her from his grip. Heart hammering, she scrambled to her feet and froze. Something pale and narrow protruded from the wet leaves at the shoreline. It was a hand. The music from the reception swelled faintly behind them, oblivious. Cole was already moving, boots sinking into the muck as he reached the body. He didn't curse, didn't shout, just knelt there, his back stiff, before pulling a folded tarp from the storage bin at the dock. Evelyn, breathing hard, stepped closer. "Who is it?" Cole looked up at her then, and she saw something flicker in his face. Not shock, but recognition. "You should go back to your guests," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. "I'm not leaving until you." "I said go." The sharpness in his tone cut her. She had known Cole since they were teenagers. He'd been her brother's best friend before the war, before the accident. He never spoke to her like that. Hunter stood between them now, panting softly, eyes still fixed on the shoreline as if the water itself held the rest of the truth. Evelyn's new husband, Mason, appeared at the top of the slope, Tuck's jacket slung over his shoulder, grin faltering as he took in the scene. "Ev? What the hell's going on?" She opened her mouth, but Cole's voice cut in again, low, firm. "Found a deer. It's nothing." Mason eyed the tarp in Cole's hands, the rigid way Hunter's ears pointed toward the water. His jaw worked like he wanted to push the issue, but instead, he slipped an arm around Evelyn's waist. "Come on. Everyone's waiting for us." As Mason guided her back toward the tent, Evelyn glanced over her shoulder. Cole was kneeling again, his body blocking her view of the pale hand. And for the briefest moment, she could have sworn she saw another figure standing at the treeline. A girl in a faded blue dress, her hair dripping with lake water, watching her. When Evelyn blinked, the figure was gone. She didn't realize she was shaking until Mason squeezed her side. "Cold?" he asked. She nodded, lying. The reception carried on in a haze. Mason danced with her, kissed her cheek, whispered the kind of small compliments meant for public ears. But Evelyn's gaze kept straying to the gap in the tent flaps where the lake glimmered faintly in the moonlight. Hunter never returned. Neither did Cole. When the cake was cut, Evelyn slipped away again, following the damp trail down to the shoreline. The moon had risen high, scattering broken silver across the water's surface. There was no sign of the tarp. Instead, at the water's edge, she found something else. Something small and delicate lying half buried in the mud. It was a gold chain, and hanging from it, a locket. Inside was a photo of her brother, taken the summer before he drowned in this very lake. The locket was cold against her palm, heavier than it should have been. Evelyn turned it over, tracing the faint dent in the gold. She remembered that dent. Her brother Nathan had dropped on the dock the summer before he died, the chain snapping, the locket tumbling down between the planks. She had watched it sink through the gaps, vanishing into the lake's darkness. She had told herself it was gone forever. A whisper of movement made her turn. Cole was standing at the edge of the trees, no flashlight, no crunch of leaves, just there, as if the forest had exhaled him. His expression was unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You found this." She held up the locket. "Where?" His eyes flicked to it, then away. It was stuck to the hand. Her stomach tightened. "And you didn't think I deserved to know that?" He stepped closer, and the smell of wet pine and gun oil clung to him. "Ev, I need you to listen carefully. That body isn't just some stranger. And if you start asking questions tonight, I can't guarantee you or Mason will be safe." A laugh broke from her lips before she could stop it, sharp and humorless. "You've been in town too long. You're starting to sound like the Hollow itself. Paranoid and full of half-truths." "Half-truths keep people alive here," he said. Evelyn started to respond, but a muffled cheer from the reception drifted down to them. Cole glanced toward the sound, jaw tightening. "Go back before someone notices you're gone, and keep that locket hidden." When he melted back into the shadows, it was like he'd never been there. She returned to the tent, locket warm now from her grip, smile plastered on for the benefit of tipsy relatives. Mason intercepted her near the bar. "Where'd you vanish to?" His tone was light, but his eyes were sharp. "Just needed some air," she said. "Out by the lake?" She stilled. "Who told you that?" He shrugged, sipping his drink. "I saw you. Thought I'd give you a minute. But, Ev, maybe tonight we just stick to the wedding stuff, yeah? No old Branford mysteries." It wasn't the words that made her stomach knot. It was the way he said them, almost rehearsed, like someone else had told him to keep her distracted. By the time the last guests stumbled to their cars, the moon had sunk lower, painting the lake a darker shade of steel. Mason disappeared to fetch the overnight bags in the cabin, leaving Evelyn alone at the edge of the empty tent. She felt Hunter before she saw him, just a quiet crunch of paws in the grass, the faint rasp of breath. He appeared from the path, leash trailing, fur damp. "No, Cole. Where's your handler?" she whispered. The dog just stared at her, then padded toward the dock, pausing every few steps to make sure she followed. Her shoes slipped on the wet planks, the water lapping soft and rhythmic beneath. Hunter stopped at the very edge, nose pointing toward the reeds near the north shore. At first she saw nothing, just shadow on shadow, then a ripple, and then something broke the surface. It wasn't a body. Not this time. It was a wooden crate, half submerged, waterlogged, but still closed. She crouched, fingers brushing the slick lid. The crate was heavier than she expected, though it's swollen from years in the water. She managed to drag it onto the dock, nails catching the rope that bound it. A voice cut through the night. "Don't open that." She spun. Mason stood at the far end of the dock, his tucked shirt unbuttoned, his expression harder than she'd ever seen it. "You knew," she said. "I told you, Ev, no old Branford mysteries." Her pulse thudded in her ears. "What's in it?" Mason's eyes flicked toward the crate, then back to her. Something that should have stayed in the lake. Hunter's growl was low, vibrating through the boards beneath her. Mason's jaw clenched, and for a long, breathless moment, they just stared at each other. Then Mason stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "Give me the locket," he said. Evelyn's hand tightened around it. "Why?" "Because if you keep it, you'll start asking the wrong people the wrong questions. And here, that gets you killed." The dock swayed gently under their weight. Somewhere out on the water, a loon called, long, mournful, like it knew something neither of them wanted to say out loud. Evelyn slipped the locket into the pocket of her dress. "Then I guess I'm already asking them." The crate sat between them, slick with lake water, rope fibers fraying under Evelyn's nails. Mason's stance was rigid, shoulders square like he could block her path without even touching her. Hunter stayed close to her leg, a steady growl vibrating against her calf. "Mason," she said quietly, "if you've been keeping something from me—" "Not something," he cut in. "Everything." The words landed like a cold slap. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, eyes never leaving hers. "Your brother's death wasn't an accident. He found something in this lake. Something the wrong people would kill to keep buried. And now you've got a piece of it hanging from your neck." Her pulse drummed in her ears. "And you knew this before you married me?" He hesitated just a fraction, but it was enough. "You married me to keep me quiet," she said. His jaw twitched, a muscle working in the corner. "I married you to keep you alive." The rain began again, soft misting, dampening her hair. The sound on the dockboard seemed louder than his voice. "Open it," she said, her hand tightening on the crate. He shook his head. "You don't know what's inside." "I don't care." Hunter stepped forward, putting himself between them, ears flat, hackles raised. Evelyn yanked at the rope, the fibers giving way with a wet snap. The lid shifted under her fingers. Inside was no treasure. It was a stack of old, sealed envelopes, each one wrapped in oilcloth, each one stamped with the Branford Sheriff's Office seal. And lying on top, in a small plastic evidence bag, was a photograph. It was Evelyn's brother Nathan, alive, wet, standing knee-deep in the lake. Behind him, in the blurred background, was the outline of a body bound in chains. Her breath caught. These were supposed to be destroyed. Mason said, "Your brother didn't drown. He ran. They caught him and made it look like an accident. Cole helped cover it up." The name struck her like a stone. Cole. He was just a deputy then. He thought he was protecting the town. The rain thickened, drumming harder. From the shadows at the edge of the dock, a figure emerged, Cole himself, his expression grim, his gun low but ready. "Mason," Cole said. "Step away from her." Mason didn't move. "Don't make me choose again," Cole warned. Evelyn's gaze bounced between them. Again, neither man answered. In the span of a heartbeat, Mason grabbed the crate, shoving it toward the water. Evelyn lunged, catching the edge, her gown dragging her down with its weight. Hunter barked, lunging too, teeth snapping at Mason's sleeve. Cole fired, a single deafening crack. Mason stumbled back, clutching his arm, the crate tipping over the edge. Evelyn's fingers slipped, but Hunter's teeth caught the rope trailing from it, holding fast until Cole hauled both her and the crate onto the dock. Mason was gone, vanished into the curtain of rain and trees. Hours later, Evelyn sat in Cole's cruiser, wrapped in a blanket, the crate at her feet. "They'll come for this," Cole said, his voice low. "They can try. You don't understand." "No," she interrupted, looking out at the lake, the ripples smoothing under the dawn light. "I do. You've all been living under this for years. I'm done pretending not to see it." He was silent for a moment. "You know, keeping this means burning every bridge in Branford." She turned to him then, tired but steady. "Some bridges need burning." Hunter rested his head on her knee, eyes half-lidded, calm now. Out on the lake, the fog curled low, erasing the horizon. For the first time in years, Evelyn didn't feel afraid of what lay beneath. She would carry the weight of it, and she would not let it sink again. This way, the story closes with a quiet but heavy emotional resolution. The truth out, trust fractured, and Evelyn choosing to confront what others buried. If you like, I can now write you a cinematic trailer-style teaser for the full story so it feels ready for a thriller audience.